This is part two of how to get terminated from Dodger Stadium. My last reading was, I believe, August 1st of 2023. I had clocked in and was greeted by Supervisor Luis Villanueva and informed that I had to report to HR. He, before I left, he spoke about the different ways he tried to mend the situation. And I think I might have said something like, all you had to do was just tell her to stop. That would have done it. But I think that's what I might have said. Anyway, I went to Human Resources, and Director Janelle Morgan and Union Rep Sylvia Sosa. I gave a verbal statement about what happened July 30th. Sylvia Sosa wanted a copy sent to her in an email. Director Janelle Morgan explained I was suspended pending an investigation, and that she didn't know how long it would take. August 8th, I get a call from Union Rep Sylvia Sosa. I just call her Sylvia. Union Rep Sylvia called to inform me that I was returning to work on August 11th. August 10th, Manager Lopez sends out a weekly schedule showing both myself and Laura Ortiz returning on the same date, August 11th. August 11th, meeting at the bar. Teammates present included myself, Ortiz, Michael Sadri, and a temporary bartender. Bar back, Brianna Larios, Union Rep Sylvia, and HR Director Janelle Morgan. The meeting was about the July 30th incident. Human Resource Janelle Morgan and Sylvia Sosa decided that the incident was my fault. My fault. I was stunned when they said it. My mouth really, I think my mouth came open. Like, I think in my head I was saying, you have got to be fucking kidding me. But that's not what came out of it. I was just like, wait a minute. She came to where I was and started something. And you're telling me it's my fault? She said, this is Sosa talking. Laura was in her right to come wherever she chooses to wash her equipment. Janelle Morgan stated that I and Laura were not to engage each other, act as if either are not there. So I was not understanding what was right about what she'd done. We were told to stay away from each other, but she's invading my space. But I'm really lost. That whole scenario took me back to a civil rights movement. That one incident and their response took me back to a civil rights incident. And I'll talk about that later. And I said to her, well, Sylvia, we were told to stay away from each other. So how is this my fault? Okay. And she told me, I think I talked about it later. She tells me later. So, okay, so we leave it there. I don't want to get too emotional about it and not focus on what we did. Okay, so we had been told to stay away from each other since April 4th. So Laura decides to complain about Brianna Larios squatting down to push products forward in the deep beer fridges for me to reach. All she had to do was just push the stuff up front. I wasn't asking her to get every beer I wanted. Now that's crazy. Now that's being like really superficial and like, really, you can't. We're pushing the stuff up front for you, lady. Now you want us to hand every sale to you? No, we're not doing that. I can understand it. So, and I'm explaining it like that because some people have the tendency to take a little bit of truth and surround it with a whole bunch of lies. And that's not what we're doing. This is the way it happened. All right. So, I guess they're doing their job from the air to keep the city safe, whatever that means. Okay. So, Laura Ortiz complained about the barback doing this duty. Now, this has been the duty of every barback, including this person who we call Bree, from the time she's been working. So, all of a sudden, there's a job notification change, and no one is aware of it, but the people who are making the change. Anyway, so Sosa said, Felice, you have to do that too. Human Resource Director agreed. All right. So then Union Rep Sylvia said the barback's job is to assist you and not do your jobs for you. Please, I need somebody to explain what that means. Because in my scenario, I thought that's what was going on. She was pushing the products up for me to reach each individual product on my own. So where in that am I committing some kind of, you know, infraction? I don't see it. So I'm stuck there with that one. Anyway, then the topic of me using a grabber came up, and Union Rep inquired with HR, and she said she would not purchase one and she would not reimburse me if I bought one. It was just flat out no. And then Union Rep, this is all coming from the Union Rep now. Union Rep also explained that barbacks are allowed to serve customers because they take alcohol training. Like I say, once again, I'm unfamiliar with this. This hasn't been the practice, but now all of a sudden it is. And the union person is making that determination. And then Ortiz, now mind you, we're both coming back on August 11th. The manager has sent out a schedule showing the both of us coming back on August 11th. Well, on August 10th, there was an incident apparently that happened that Laura Ortiz talks about. She talks about a customer who she claims told her that she and I don't get along. And she corrected them and told them, oh, we're one big happy family. And my senses went up because the schedule showed us both coming back on the same day. And she was allowed to come back a day early. But see, she ran her mouth. And that was supposed to be, hush hush. But she was so busy talking and trying to illustrate a point, she gave herself away. That's the kind of nefarious stuff that goes on. All right? That's the kind of things that they allow and that they participate in. But, if she hadn't have told on herself, I wouldn't have known anything at all. So, I asked the union rep about this. Why was Laura allowed to return a day earlier than I was? And she said it was a management an HR decision. Now, ain't that something? So management is just as much part of it. Because that was clearly, if I got it right, it was her that did the infraction. It was her that needed to be suspended for not listening and instigating something. But no, she was in her right. She can go wherever, as the lady said, she chooses to. All right. So the meeting, I had to be reinstated, so I had to fill out paperwork and stuff. And so at the meeting that continued in the office, uh, Sylvia said to me, Felice, you inserted yourself into the situation. All you had to do was let her take the equipment and not say anything to her. And then I was like, Sylvia, they left me in charge of their station, and we don't have anywhere to wash stuff. So if I was to let her have it, that would have meant next time we want to stay and wash things after the stand is closed, the answer is going to be no, because you took our equipment. So I thought that was a little interesting. But anyway, that's the background of it. So she says, so what if she took the bucket? Then she took it. It was no big deal. I have known Charles for years. Even if you are to stay away from each other, she still has the right to come there and wash her things when she wants to. H.R. Morgan agreed that Ortiz had not done anything wrong. Both told me that they didn't see where there was anything wrong with how Laura handled the situation. Morgan told me, you ought to stay away from her. No more of these incidents. Now check that out. Sounds racist to me. Sounds very redneck to me. Sounds like the old South to me. And in some places probably still goes on all over the country. That's what that sounds like to me. I could be wrong. All right. August 16th, I used an extra piece of floor mat as extra cushion for foot swelling problem. And it's only in one leg. All right. So Michael Sadri said he had tripped over the mat, which was underneath a longer one. So I made the adjustment, which now meant the mat was no longer an issue. But he still complained about it. During the post shift, I was notified by Supervisor Luis that he would like to speak with me. He said, no use of the extra mat is allowed. You already have one that is assigned. And I'm like, where did he get that information from? Because there was never an assignment as to which mat we used. But now all of a sudden, it's got a job and all of that, and it's assigned. To help Supervisor Louise, I get a little tearful about it, so hold on a minute. To help him understand what was going on with me, I lifted my right pant leg up, and showed him my very swollen ankle and leg. Here's the cold part. His response. His response was to remind me that my job as a bartender involves standings for long periods of time. That's all he said. And then he said, I said, well, suppose I just buy one. Skip the reimbursement, skip all of that. I'll just buy one. He says buying an additional mat is not allowed. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't care which way you go with it. There's always going to be an issue. August 19th, What, we're talking 3 days later? Ortiz arrived an hour earlier than the rest of us and stated we were to come in earlier that day because it was a double header. Well, nobody else knew about this but her. I can only imagine with that extra hour what could have happened. So there was never any notice telling us to come in earlier. So I think that was just manufactured for a different reason. So manager Lopez comes down to talk to us, and she wants to talk about a paring knife that I had purchased at the Dollar Tree. Ortiz claimed the knife belonged to her and had a picture to prove that it belonged to a knife set that she had at home. Lopez asked me to produce a picture to prove that the knife belonged to me. And I told her I didn't have a picture of a knife that I bought from the dollar store. So manager Lopez requested that I give the knife to Ortiz. But here's the deal. Manager Lopez never produced a picture of the supposed knife that this knife set belonged to. Somehow, conveniently, she left that part out. August 28th, during the closing shift, I asked Supervisor Luis and teammate Sadri for Manager Lopez's cell number. I was using a loaner phone at the time. I didn't tell them that. I just needed the number so I could call her. Supervisor and teammate told me that I was not allowed to have her number, her cell number, from either of them. I could have the manager's number or supervisor's cell number if they personally gave it to me. I'm not used to that either. Okay, August 29th, here comes the premium general manager, Les Echeverria. He says, not everybody can have mine. And then, I'm like, okay, you're the premium general manager. That's not the same thing as my immediate supervisor and immediate manager. I've never heard that. If they're using their phones for work and I'm calling them within work hours, I don't understand why I can't have their number from someone else. We're all working together, but I could be wrong about that. Okay, so he said, so I said something about the people that are in direct chain of command don't have to give their cell, they have to give their staff their contact number. He said it was because staff uses personal cell phones for work. Now, this is the premium general manager telling me this. So that must be the policy, I'm assuming. So, September 18th, we had a break. September 18th, Barback Larios was making michelada. Anybody who knows about a michelada knows how it's prepared. You put tahini around the rim of the cup. So every time the drinker drinks it, they drink some of the seasoning along with the beer, which has Tabasco and Worcestershire sauce in it. And you mix the beer into that. And it tastes really good. It really does. And you can top it with cucumber, lollipop, and I don't know, there's different toppings you can do with it. So anyway, she's making them, but she's making them really thin. And the mix alone is like $7 without the beer in it. So, there are other places within the stadium where they can get them served the way they should be. So all I was doing was trying to up the game so that they don't want to go to one of the other stands. We're going to give you the same service or go beyond because we want you to come back. Because it's a new bar. So we're going to give you the best service possible. is my way of thinking. So anyway, um, I asked her, could she make them thicker? She knew what I meant. She said to me, this is the way I make them and nobody else is complaining. Now, mind you, I got all these people, like it was one group together, and they're making this complaint. All right? We know it's not supposed to be, that kind. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna trip with her. What I did was for every cup that she had that had the thin rim, I poured the mix from that cup. And I had re-rimmed a fresh cup so that it was thick like it needed to be. Now granted, we're all busy, so this is once again a way to slow me down. So I re-rimmed them and just poured the mix from the cups she had made, pre-made, into this one. All she had to do was just re-rim the cup, but she didn't want to do that. So what she did was, for everyone that I did, she threw the existing cup away. I hope I've explained that. She threw them all out instead of re-rimming them. So then when I came to, so what happened was, next thing you know, here comes Supervisor Luis, and he taps Bree on the back, and they go outside and have a conversation. The very next day, I had done some duties. Oh yeah, later on that day, we're still on the. Oh no, we've passed. That was on the 18th. Okay, the 19th. I do this bottle exchange like I had explained in part one. And on the return, I'm met by Jessica Lopez, the manager. She asked me why I threw the Michelada cups out. I looked at her like like she had, like she had really lost her mind. I was like, what? I said I didn't throw anything away. Bree threw those cups out when all she had to do was re-rim them. That was it. But now all of a sudden on that day, throwing cups out is a major crime when they're thrown out every day. At the end of the night, all of this product is thrown out. And no one's ever said anything. But now all of a sudden, it's a big deal. But what they were trying to do is trying to play me like I'm one of these uppity bitches. If it's not perfect, I'm throwing it out. That kind of attitude. Give me a break. Stop it. I mean, granted, I do believe in quality service, but I'm not an idiot. Like I'm some rich bitch who, if I see a speckle of dust on something, I'm gonna scream. Give me a break. It ain't happening. So anyway, she tells me this is what was told to her. And so I told her, and then when I, explained what happened, then she says, well, Bree is not here today, so we'll talk about it when she comes in. Like so many other times, those conversations never happen. So then later on, the bar wasn't busy. So the two guys were over in a corner having a conversation. And it was just myself and Ortiz seemed to have customers. They would walk to me. I guess it must have been, we're only going to deal with women today. Because that's the way it seemed to be going for a while. So on my way to wash my hands at the hand washing sink, Michael's back was to me. And apparently I brushed him, my hand brushed him on my way to the sink. Because he said something about it. I said, oh, I'm sorry. And that was it. Well, here comes Supervisor Luis. He goes over to Sadri, has has a conversation, right? And then left. So Michael Sadri says, what you did was no big deal. Why did Laura call Luis? And we're all looking at him like, what are you talking about? Because she wasn't there at the time. Laura had called Supervisor Luis and told him that I hit Michael in his back. Okay? Now, this is what I was talking about. One small amount of truth and everything else around it a big lie. Technically, I did touch him. My hand touched him. But what would we call hit? If my hand touched him and it wasn't intense, does that take it away from being a hit? Or does it involve the force behind the touch? Makes it a hit. Like, at what speed does it have to go in order to be a hit? Or is that contact? Did my hand contact him? Yes, it did. But was it intended? Let's look at the context. Was I angry when I did it? No. None of that existed. No, there was no tension. There was no anger in it. Had I hit him, if I hit him to stop myself from falling, what makes it a hit? Is it the force behind it? So if we take the force behind it into account, I barely hit him. I barely touched him. I had almost no contact with him. And it wasn't done maliciously. But you see how the game of telephone can be. What was something innocent by now has turned into an act of aggression when there wasn't one. So just keep that in mind. All right. So September 20th. Oh, yes. Let me go back. Okay, so anyway, called supervisor. They have a conversation. He knows, he's like, why is she doing that? Blah, 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 blah. So also, I had turned on my computer terminal. That was something that happened earlier in the day. When I first came in, get settled in, I turned on my computer terminal. And the terminal had a red circle with a yellow number 2 in it. And my teammates all had red clouds with numbers. No, we had gone to lunch. That's what it was. Yeah, we'd gone to lunch. And because some of the details are starting to come back. Yeah, we'd gone to lunch, and when we came back, I noticed that mine had a red circle with the number 2, and all 3 of theirs just had a green cloud. And I took a quick picture because, once everybody came back and turned their computers on, it was going to be a whole different thing. All right. So, on the 20th, I come in, and I came in later than my normal routine because my normal routine would have been to be there by 3 at the latest, or maybe 3:05, maybe 5 to 3 rather than 3:05. So I came in a little later than I usually do. Ortiz had moved over to the terminal that I use. And I'm like, well, why would she be doing that when we were told by Lopez about a year before to stop doing that because Ortiz would not want to rotate when Michael Sadri would be out for his other job. If we had all rotated, it would have been cool. Everybody gets a chance to be at Terminal 1 because supposedly you make more money at Terminal 1. So there was an incident that happened where Ortiz refused to move. She had been there the day before. She didn't want to not be there the next day. And was like, no, you can't do that. You have to share. And she was like, well, I'm not. I'm calling Jessica. So Jessica's solution was nobody moves to the empty terminal if there's not going to be another substitute bartender. And if there is a substitute bartender, then they will take that space. So that was the first thing. And then later on, I'm pretty sure all bartenders know what I'm talking about when I say community liquor. And it had a designated area, which was on top of this short, deep beer fridge. And I was looking to make a drink called the Cadillac Margarita, and it requires a Grand Marnier floater on the top. And Laura had moved this to her station, which wasn't supposed to be there. So I reached to get it, and as I'm reaching to get it, Ortiz is in the middle of serving a customer. She puts the drink down that she's making and turns around and tries to grab the bottle out of my hand. I was saying to myself, this girl is losing it. I was starting to think that maybe she was going through menopause. And they say sometimes menopause can make women act strange. I don't know what that's like because it didn't make me act strange. But maybe that's what was going on to give some reason for the behavior. And it's hormonal. So sometimes women can't handle it and they get all frazzled and, unraveled and things. And then the rest of us don't have any problems. So it's individual. So anyway, I returned the bottle, because I'm saying it's not that serious. I returned the bottle. She stopped once she finished making the drink that she was making. She took the bottle and put it, the Grand Marnier, she put it in the cabinet under her POS terminal. And this meant I would have to open another bottle of it. So anyway, for some reason, she called Jessica Lopez to complain about me using the Grand Marnier. And then here comes GM Les Echeverria. He walked behind the bar, looks at what Michael is doing, and he exits behind Ortiz and looks in the liquor cage on his way out. So I'm checking this out. What's that all about? But anyway, that's what he did. So on September 21st, I clocked in and I did fruit cutting, which requires a knife. I restocked from daily deliveries, and all of us went to lunch, and I had the keys to lock up. And when we finished with lunch, Manager Lopez tells me I have to go to HR and that I need to give the keys to Michael. So I'm like, well, what is it? What did I do now? Anyway, a human resource director, Janelle Morgan, union reps, Sylvia Sosa. The other two I won't mention because they're really not a part of anything. And then I'm suspended pending an investigation without any time of completion. And the decision will be determined by another office. And there was a written report. The report stated employees had a complaint with a range of issues, including, I want you to listen to this, and this is a union job, which has particular rules when it comes to firing, suspending, or otherwise. Okay? Now, all these union reps are sitting in the room. Okay. I had thrown away company products. I prevented a teammate from performing his duties. I called teammates derogatory names. The human resource director stated that I had threatened the life of Laura Ortiz. And all the union reps wanted me to send an email to respond to the allegations in the report. And I was like, no, I'm writing something at the bottom. So I wrote a rebuttal. And the complaint had already been signed by Morgan and Sosa. And then Manager Lopez filled out a report with an incorrect spelling of my legal or nickname. I will repeat. She had filled out a report with an incorrect spelling of my legal name and my nickname. Both of them. She spelled something else. And I don't get that. You're writing a complaint about me that's leading to me being terminated. That's what it wound up leading to. But right now we're going to talk about suspended. And you can't even write my name correctly. Something is wrong there. What it is, I don't know. But there is obviously something legally wrong with that picture. And let me see. I want you to get a good sunset. Yeah, there we go. So this is what was written. And Human Resource Director accepted it. Just like she did back in 22, accepting this bogus task sheet that needed to be signed by a direct supervisor and manager. She accepted that, just like she accepted this. And this clearly is not legal. All right. So, now I'm going to take you back to 2018. 2018, I worked the Tuesday before opening day because the last week of March, the last Thursday in March, starts the baseball season. So I worked that Tuesday before the season started. And I guess that was so that the managers and supervisors could become familiar with the staff, who's new, who's not, and that kind of thing. All right. I didn't work again until July 18th, I think. And I would get the schedule. But here's what was going on. Staff members junior to me were called to work. Not scheduled, but on call if needed. I should have been called based on the seniority list, but I was not contacted. Eventually, I called somebody and somebody else because this girl named Maritza was telling me that I was hired to work evenings. And because I was hired to work evenings, it hadn't come up yet. Because she asked me, well, which were you hired to work, morning or evening? I said, I don't know. And so that's what she told me. She kept telling me that every time I would call, and I could clearly see some other guy who was like, how did he get in front of me? He was being called in before it got to me. So I called someone else and was given the manager of the suite's phone number. And I got in touch with her. And then I started working on a regular basis. Okay. Now, the teammates in the suites department, they were like, where is she from? We don't trust, they weren't trusting me. They thought I was from corporate or something like that. I mean, why do I have to be from corporate? Because I don't want a corporate stress job at this point in my life. Give me something that I can enjoy and have fun with. So, um, they were very leery of me. And once they found out that this wasn't true, their behaviors became rude. A teammate and I both crocheted, and I had returned from doing an errand, and I saw her crocheting. So I automatically was thinking, oh, I got a crochet buddy. And I said, oh, you crochet too? And she said, no. She said, yes, I crochet. And I asked her what she was making. She told me she reached in my bag and took out my crochet project. Now, that could have gone a lot of different ways. But that's what made me realize that I was in the company of bullies and that they have some motivation or motive. I'm not playing into it. I'm employed, I'm having fun. I'm at Dodger Stadium, the one and only Dodger Stadium. So I'm all happy like a kid in the Christmas store. Who, what? The historical place, a historical team, and a historical man. So give me a break. Anyway, um, then that was that day. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to react the way she wants. What I did do is I walked over to her and took it away from her and asked her not to do that again. That's all I said. Then there was another incident. I had used a banquet card that, at the end of the night, what people do is they, mark the banquet card so that they can have one because they really didn't have enough for everybody and they should have had one for every person. Anyway, I came back and she's speaking to me in her native language. And I'm looking at her like, do you speak English? Because I could have sworn that she spoke English to me before I left. So when I came back, she's speaking in her native tongue. And I'm looking at her like, could you speak English so I can understand what you're saying to me, please? And I said it with a sense of humor. I didn't, bite at her or nothing like that. Okay. So then there was like two people in that group that really had issues with me. One was, his name was Lionel, and the other one, her name was Lorena. Isn't that interesting? Lionel, Lorena, Laura. Maybe it's an L thing. I don't know. The L word. So they would instigate the others to do stupid stuff. And they couldn't get me to act stupid with them. So I guess they were like, oh, well, leave her alone. Let's see. 2019, I decided that there were sisters that lived together. I was in between them. One was older, in seniority. One had more, one had less. I'm in between. And so they wanted them to work together. So the seniority list was changed so that the two of them would work together. So they do little stuff like that, teach you out of things in that way. So by the time I was unfamiliar with all of how things work, so when I did go to HR and the union about this, that I needed to get my seniority back like it should have been, I was told that I waited too late in the season and there was nothing they could do about it. So I was like, okay. So in 2022, opportunities in different departments and positions came available. I tried working at a sports bar, but I decided that I'd just go back to the pantry and work in the sweets department until something else came along. So one did. The There was a bar at the time I think it's called the Desert Kiosk now, but it used to be called the Stoli Bar. So probably there was a contract with Stoli Vodka, is the reason it was called the Stoli Bar. Anyway, it was a new bar. It was used to be a gift shop or something that they've turned into a bar. So it didn't have permanent equipment. Everything was on wheels. So anyway, they turned this into a bar. They had put out the job offer. Um, Myself and two other guys, Michael Sadri and another person, who actually left once they found out that Ortiz was coming. He left because he said she's nothing but trouble. So anyway, it was the three of us, and we knew there was going to be a fourth person. So I and Michael had both signed acceptance letters saying that we wanted to permanently be at the bar. So that's how I wound up there. And everything was going good. We had established duties between the three of us that we would do every day. Mine was sweeping the entire place, wiping down all the bar stations, in addition to us marrying liquors and all this and all that. So I did that every day. Sadri did his share, and so did the other bartender. And we were fine. We didn't have a bar back. We didn't have any of that. I was out for a couple of days, and manager knew this was going to be happening when I took the job. When I come back to work, Sadri says to me, well, there was another bartender while I was gone, and the other bartender was at terminal number 4, because terminal number 1 is separate, 2 and 3 are right next to each other, and then 4 is separate. So 3 and 4 are separate from each other. 1 and 2 are separate from each other, but 2 and 3 are right next to each other. So he said, if you move down, we all have room. So I said, okay, no problem. I moved over. The minute I moved over, 15 minutes after the hour, here comes Ortiz. She comes over to where I used to be at Terminal 3, right next to Sadri. She puts her things in the cabinet. You would think that this is normal for her. You would think that she's always been at that location by the way she came in with such comfort. She didn't come in like a person who didn't know where they belonged. And she talks to our teammates in her native language. She does not say anything to me at all. Doesn't look in my direction, nothing. She says something to me at lunchtime to tell me I could break for lunch. Now, mind you, this whole time, I'm assuming she doesn't realize that I am a permanent employee I'm thinking because of the way I'm dressed, which is all black, which is what temporary staff wears now. They wear all black. So I'm thinking she's thinking that I'm temporary staff, and that no one has had the manners to tell her that I'm part of the staff. So she's like treating me like some people treat temps. And she mentions about lunch, and I'm like, okay, and I walked out. And I come back in, we're working. At the end of the night, remember I said I have my established duties, which is sweeping the entire floor. So I've got my routine as to how I sweep the floor. She's going to tell me, excuse me, I want you to come behind the bar and sweep behind the bar first so he can mop. And I looked at her and I asked her, well, isn't he going to mop the whole floor? And she said, yes, he is. I said, okay. And I just kept on doing what I was doing. So she had an attitude about it. And I'm saying to myself, I don't know how long I'm going to keep up with this, but I'll try. I'll see what happens tomorrow at this new space. If I like it, I'll stay. If I don't, I'm going back to where I was. Because now I realize what's up. Michael lied to me and told me that so that she could come in and take my spot because that's where she wanted to be. So second day, I'm seeing how things go. So I said to the supervisor at that time that I need to make an announcement at the end of the night. So at the end of the night, my announcement was to her. I said, when you came in, I had just moved over, and I didn't address her by name since she wasn't addressing me by my name. I said, when you came in, I had just moved over to Terminal 4, but Terminal 3 is my station. And tomorrow when we come in, I will be back at Terminal 3. She didn't like that. When I came in the next day, and when she got there, she started speaking in her native language and then started an argument. And that was kind of the beginning. She started an argument with me every single day from that point until the day that I was terminated. It just kept going. Constant, one thing after the other. I think there was something dealing with some raspberries one day. She was told, she wanted the raspberries. So I guess I was just supposed to give them up. Everything between them, I'm just supposed to give it up. Just supposed to do it. I'm not supposed to have any feelings about this. Okay? It was just constant. She would just make up stuff to complain about. And I guess Janelle was trying to find some reasoning to write it up. But I was never allowed to see any write-ups. So I don't know what was talked about. But it would always start the same. She would start speaking in a native language to the teammates and then find something to complain about with me. It was this, it was that, it was this. And then the HR director, her responsibilities. Why wasn't she stopping this? She knew about it. She was not stopping, and that was her responsibility. Who is the professional in the room? And that's my argument. Who is the professional when you've got this kind of behavior running your business? This should not even be allowed. And it's a union job, by the way. A union is negotiating on our behalf for this kind of foolishness to take place. Then what is the role of a union? I don't see it. I don't see the value of it. She had a responsibility to enforce protocols established by the Employment Development Department to curtail the daily pervasive harassment I was enduring from Laura. Yet she did not fulfill her obligations to protect me. Laura complained, and she complained that I wasn't doing anything. But hell, if you coming in a half an hour late and I'm getting in there a half an hour early, I guess according to you, who shows up late, I guess I'm not doing anything. Because by that point, I should be finished. But you didn't complain about nobody else doing anything. Just me. It's always just me. Okay. And nobody seemed to see anything. I was the sole target of harassment by Ortiz, by Morgan, by Les, and by Union Rep. They didn't do a damn thing. Actually, I think they yeasted it up and played along. But I want to take y'all to how I felt. Let me just skip through all the other stuff. Because the other stuff is just me pointing out the obvious. I want to take you to page 43. Page 43. Now, anybody who's in the legal system, you can get these documents through the online portal because you have the ability to do that. On page 43, I want to talk about August 11th, 2023. It was a playback from the Jim Crow South. A white woman was pleased to go wherever she wanted. You better step out of her way, was the understanding. Many African Americans have lost their lives because they were accused of looking at a white woman the wrong way. So my brain went all the way back to there, to those days when our people had to be subservient to white folks. And this could not be happening in 2023. Wait a minute. Let's put a pause on it. I'm supposed to be now subservient to another culture of people who think they are white too. I just want y'all to understand that now. Who think they are white too. But when you hear this political landscape, they have color and want to be associated with us. But now, amongst themselves, when they're sitting at their dinner tables, they don't see themselves as us. They see themselves as another member of the Caucasian race. So I'm like, wait a minute. What I did was wrong, but what she did was okay. She could come wherever she chooses to wash her equipment. And I was very clear about my response to that. Because my response was, I'm not saying that she couldn't come in here and wash her equipment. The timing is what I'm talking about. She did not have to come in there when I was in there. Or if it was such an emergency to wash her equipment, her personal bar equipment, all she had to do was go and take it in the bathroom and rinse it out. There's hot water in the bathroom. But what was really about it, there was 3 buckets already at the workstation. So she didn't have to come down there at all. She did that to provoke an incident. But it's my fault. I'm not in cracker heaven. And I do know racism when I smell it, see it, and feel it. And these people are protected. Their racist ways are protected. I just want you to understand that. So that's the case itself. And those were the reasons I was suspended. I didn't even know that was legal to do. But that's the reason I was suspended. So I will end with that today. But here's what I do want to end with. The majority protected class is right, and the minority protected class is wrong. That's the way they do it out here. I'm part of the minority protected class. I have got to prove a lot more to get respect. They get it just automatically. And even then, they don't want to give it. It's terrible. Every law firm, I wish I could record some of these law firms. They're funny. If you've had workplace harassment, call us. I probably got about a list of 50 of them, in addition to a list that I was given by the EEOC. Now the EEOC knows what I'm talking about. They gave me the list. You don't get the list just because you want it. Not one of those attorneys would take the case because they don't want to lose their business. They know the power of groups, the power of unions. So they're like, no, I don't want to take that. One wanted to know what company I was suing. It's Compass Group doing business as Levy Premium Food Service. all day long. That's who I'm suing. I don't care what the judge agreed with. I know who I was suing. And so now my next reading will be the actual um, communications and court filings based on myself and the defendant's attorney. Don't worry about it, y'all. You know who you are, and you're next. Because now we're past what brought me to court. This is what brought me to court. This is what changed from a state case to a federal case. That's what this is now. It is a federal case. And I'm now going to be taking you through all of that process, all of the paperwork that we've both submitted, and everything that leads us up to where I am now. So I want to thank you once again for spending another hour with me. Now we're an hour 2. So it was 2 hours total for me to read all of that. And I'm glad I didn't read the whole thing because everything else was just summation of the obvious. So until next time, enjoy your week. Um, I want you to see a beautiful sunset, or what I think a beautiful sunset is going to look like today, because the cloud cover is amazing. All these different grays, and I mean, it's just really pretty to see how gray can be beautiful. You know, the different shades of gray. They're just, all together, they just look spectacular. Like, um, obviously, it's going to storm. It's chilly. Now, it's supposed to be, birds chirping and all of that. It's supposed to be a nice sunny day, mild weather. Don't believe it. California is taking on, Southern California in particular, is becoming more like the East Coast, where you're not seeing too many people out here in flip flops anymore and shorts with a sweatshirt. They're putting on boots. They got leggings on. They're dressing more, more East Coast. Yeah, more East Coast. And the East Coast is becoming warmer and milder and all of this kind of stuff, which is, I don't know how to dress some days. So I'll come back just so you can see video. So they're two separate things. Okay, so bye.